Hi, I'm Tim Goodfellow for FF News, and we're here at Money 2020 Europe in Amsterdam. And I'm pleased to be joined by Brian Hanrahan from Nuapay. How are you doing today, Brian?
Great, glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you. And Brian, perhaps for those who aren't aware, could you give us a brief introduction about your role in the company and maybe a brief history of how we've got to this point today?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. So I'm the CEO of the Nuapay business. We were acquired about a year and a half ago by EML Payments, and we're running Nuapay as a business within that group. I was part of the kind of founding team of that business 20 odd years ago, and have kind of been part of the journey with the wider organization.
Right. Yeah. So it's been a long journey, I guess. What's the kind of the main value that you provide to the customers you work with?
We've always specialised in account-to-account payments, and they have huge advantages versus most other types. So far more cost-effective, quite easy to embed and integrate into process flows, and really just modernising how payments are done. Our clients are businesses, and ultimately, but we also partner with quite a few of the major global banks, PSPs, and software platforms to kind of distribute and bring these products out to market. So that's our model. We've gone through a few iterations, with that. So account to account was, quite traditional for a long time, kind of batch orientated. So the core payments like direct debits and credit transfers, and now of course we have open banking and real-time payments as well.
And how has open banking sort of revolutionised the payment space?
Yeah, it's a huge development. We kind of picked up on it pretty early on. We've been kind of very committed, and we started to build out our products, back in 2018, around this. For us though, it's just one ingredient that we put into the account-to-account kind of family. Open banking payments, for example, are really good at initiating payments. But unless you have a kind of an account that can receive those funds and reconcile them and do things like refunds, it's not really useful. So we, from the start, basically viewed this as an alternative payment method that needed to be rounded out, and we had all the other ingredients as well. So for us, that's that was our approach. It's a very attractive solution to merchants. They get huge savings. They can give their customers a better experience. It's being received quite well. It does have to go through an adoption curve, which is normal for any payment method, but it's pretty well on that journey now.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And we've spoken to a couple of people. Embedded finance has come up as something which is kind of is changing how companies relate to each other. How do you fit into that, and what are some of your thoughts around that?
It's for well over 10 years. It has been a really important kind of element in our go-to-market. So we work with software platforms, software providers who are dealing with end clients at the kind of point of interaction, and they're looking to build payments into that experience. It's hugely beneficial. So obviously on the consumer side of things, we've all had that kind of Uber experience where you're just getting the payment done. That applies just as equally to B2B situations. So whether you are in an accounting platform looking to try to understand the transaction balance, transaction history or balances on your various bank accounts, or whether you are in a account receivable system trying to get collections from due invoices. This is the kind of stuff we power every day. We've kind of got all the kind of API wrappers and the kind of collaboration with those players to build that into the flow, because it's really what customers want at this stage, and we're happy to power it either directly with the software providers or else through our partners to their software partners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd just be interested to know what does the next year, what do the next couple of years look like for Nuapay? What have you got coming up? Are there any kind of exciting developments that we can hear about?
So we're in a space that's growing extremely quickly. We're growing extremely quickly. We need to kind of, make sure we kind of deliver, on all that potential and remain a reliable partner to everybody. I think we also have some really interesting products that are kind of emerging. So we have recently launched a product called Authenticated Mandates, which brings together the advantages of open banking and around security and convenience and biometric authentication with the reach and cost effectiveness of direct debits. So that's been an extremely popular product. And we're kind of continuing to evolve the suite. So there's interesting things happening around variable recurring payments, VRP, which we kind of will embed into that as it becomes ready for prime time. And also things like request to pay and just the general movement globally towards real-time payment rails and account to account. So these are waves that we're looking to kind of harness, I guess, and but be very deliberate about the ones which we think are real and can deliver customer benefit now versus more hype, and that's the judgment that we're taking.
And how do you establish that kind of how do you work that out?
Yeah, so you need to get really close to the ecosystem. You need to be engaged in the policy formation, in the kind of infrastructure. The devil's in the detail. So some of these things like VRP, for example, fantastic initiative, will bring great upside potential for for the industry and drive traffic towards account to account. But there's some fundamental issues that we would have to overcome first as an industry to get there. So banks collaborating with that, what's the price point going to be? I think there's some big challenges there. And look, we engage with the ecosystem. We're part the Open Finance Association. We spend a lot of time lobbying kind of both regulators and the political establishment to encourage these trends, because these actually genuinely are much better for consumers. They're usually better for the economy. If we can shift payments over to account, it's really quite advantageous. So that's something we spend time on, and therefore we adapt our products to reflect.
Yeah, that's great. It's really interesting. And just finally, to wrap up, we're here at Money 2020, and speaking of trends, I'd just be interested to know, as you've been kind of maybe walking around, I imagine you maybe been in one place mainly, but what are some of the conversations that you're hearing? What are some of the trends that people are picking up on? What's kind of exciting people? Do you have anything in mind?
This is an event where you kind of see all the the latest innovations, and that's which is fantastic. I think open banking is still a massive trend. Real-time payments are a trend. I would say that people in this era, the kind of macroeconomic backdrop and so on, is forcing people to be a bit more focused on real business benefits. So what can actually drive tangible savings or revenue growth. And less about the hype, which is good actually. That's to be honest probably been a bit maybe too far the other way in previous years. I think now people are very focused on kind of tangible benefits, and I think that's a good thing.